fade in for the week 4 West Coast Premier Fantasy League update. I'm Jim, owner and proprietor of the Flaming Homers and adjuster of this camera. Okay, there we go. We're going to try to go with that. All right, it's week 4. Week 4 is in the books, I should say, and it's time to give you guys a little update on where we are. Wow, things are kind of taking shape a little bit. Let's start with the first game on my screen, the Flaming Homers and Ghetto Superstar. Now, I gotta say, first of all, bye week sucks, right? I mean, I don't know whether it's better to have all your guys out on bye in 1 week and just go ahead and lose one, or to be bled slowly to death by them. So I'm going to blame my loss this week on bye for several of my productive players, and ignore the fact that even my other players didn't produce that well, and that Ghetto Superstar got 150 points. So that way I feel better about myself for no particular reason. Anyway, recap. Brady did what Brady does. He got me 37 points. I can't really argue with that. Sure, Favre was on the bench and got a few more, but you know what, honestly? I stand by that decision because, once again, it makes me feel better about myself for no good reason. Real unproductive core of receivers here. Mario Manningham, Roy Williams, barely there. I mean, you could have put a bale of hay or a bag of aluminum cans out on the field and it would have been just about as productive, I think. On the other hand, Ryan Grant had a good night. Mewelde Moore, my sleeper running back from Pittsburgh, at 16 points. Love that. Lawrence Tynes did his thing, and the Cincinnati defense got me 17 points. That was a last-minute switch. Ignore that sound. But it was not enough. Flacco matched Brady, pretty much blow for blow. Just 0.3 points separated him. He's good. I like that guy. Plus, all those evil powers he has because he's Siler, those must come in handy on the football field, too. Anyway, other than that, there were some weak spots, but Steve Slayton was not one of them. Vernon Davis, not one of them. And I think the star of the day, forget a superstar, has got to be San Francisco's defense, pitching a 35-0 shutout and scoring of 44 points. San Francisco's defense could have beaten a couple teams by themselves. So Ghetto Superstar goes to 3-1. The Flaming Homers drop to a lowly 2-2. All right, Smell This and Smack Attack 3. Now, I mean, really, come on. This is just one of these things where Drew is now drawn even at 2-2 again. He scored 103 points. The reason is that apparently it's hard to get internet connection in France. They're still working on that whole Minitel thing. And 3 of Smack Attack 3's players were on bye, which left him with a grand total of 72 points and 41 from Rivers, and, zero point 0.2 points from Darren McFadden weren't enough. 0.2 points from Darren McFadden, which leads me to one of my cardinal rules of fantasy football. Never pick a Raider. Never pick a Raider. Ever. I mean, Stabler was probably the last good Raiders player. Or what's that guy who looks like a caveman? Jim, I can't remember his name. You know what I'm talking about. He looked just like a caveman. Anyway, Minnesota defense did well for him as well, but Smell This overwhelmed him with 103 points. Peyton Manning with 45, 20 from Matt Forte, 11 from Noshawn Marino. Noshawn, that is the worst name ever. Well, it's not as bad as Plaxico, but anyway. And the Tennessee defense with 4 big points. I'll tell you what, 1 point for each loss they've got this season so far. So Smell This comes up with the win. We have to, I think, grudgingly allow that this was a victory. Drawing even at 2-2. Unconvincing is all I can say. Liam Neeson, previously unbeaten, has dropped a game to the Jolly Rogers. Now, Tommy is a strong newcomer, 138 points in this game, 45 out of Big Ben, 13 out of Reggie Wayne, 24 out of Antonio Gates, who woke up. Pierre Thomas, what a sleeper, another 20 points out of them. And 9.5 out of some guy named Adrian Peterson. Over on the other side, Liam Neeson got a slightly lackluster performance out of Tony Romo. Good points out of Husmanzada, Ocho Cinco, MJD, Marion Barber, solid across the board. Had some 4s and 5s and 6s and 7s that added up to 106 points. Still would have beaten Drew, but did not, and came up with 106 to 138. No question. This game was in the bag for Jolly Rogers, who are now 3-1, and Liam Neeson, previously unbeaten, has dropped to 3-1 as well. All right, Invisible Cows, man, the Invisible Cows are having a rough season, I gotta tell you. Really very little going on. Jake added Mike Sims Walker, wide receiver for Jacksonville, who got him 21 points. That was the bright spot. The rest of it really is just a nightmare. Jason Campbell with 23. This is rule number 2. Never pick Jason Campbell. Never pick Jason Campbell. Braylon Edwards, 0. Nothing from Braylon Edwards. What is up with that? 1.4 from LaDainian Tomlinson. 3.8 out of Fred Taylor. I mean, this is just not good. Pittsburgh was pitching a shutout, and I think in the fourth quarter, 28-0, and then suddenly decided to give up 28 points. So that hurt Jake on defense with 5. Over on the other side, Brutta Is had a good game. Aaron Rodgers last night nearly pulling out the victory. 48 points. Wow. Ronnie Brown with 23. That was tremendous. And 31 out of the New Orleans defense. What is up with that? 131 total. That is Brutta Is' first win. This was the battle of the beatens, 0-3 versus 0-3. Jake is now 0-4, and Brutta is 1-3. All right, DeBiz and Ruff the Passer. This is a little bit of a close game. Ruff the Passer came in with an undefeated record, unblemished record, and keeps it with 104 points. Not a tremendous number of points, but he keeps winning. DeBiz posted only 91 points, got 32 out of Cutler, and some good points out of Moss, but the rest of it wasn't that great. Ended up with just 91 points. Over on the other side, Schaub did his usual thing of underperforming. 26 points, 14 out of Calvin Johnson, and some other guys. All added up to 104, and that's a not exactly overwhelming win, but you can't argue with the results. 4-0, Ruff the Passer, 4-0. That's pretty good. So finally, last game of the week, You Betcha and the Eye. Now these are teams that both came into this game 1-2. You Betcha, I think this is 2 wins in a row, if I'm not mistaken, 2 wins in a row. Breeze, again, a not so great point performance, just 19.5, but that was made up for by Brandon Marshall, Thomas Jones, Derek Mason, Ricky Williams, and the Baltimore defense, which you can always pretty much count on. Total of 115 points. Now, the Eye, really didn't get a strong performance out of anybody but Joseph Adai and Ray Rice. The Denver defense also 111 points. So this one was close, but You Betcha nipped him in the end. And 1-3 drops, or the Eye drops to 1-3, and You Betcha moves up to 2-2. So let's do a standings update in the Superman division. Is this thing still on? In the Superman division, Liam Neeson is still in the lead at 3-1 because Flaming Homers dropped a game. So goes Liam Neeson leading Superman. And over in the Batman division, Ruff the Passer is still 4-0 despite having a relatively low point total. In fact, the next 4 teams behind Ruff the Passer have higher points than he does. But nevertheless, that's not what counts. It's record. And so that's where we are after 4 weeks. Set your lineups for next week, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.